So moving into round 4 of our Bleach versus Record of Ragnarok tournament, we have the father of humanity, Adam, in corner number 1, and in corner number 2, we have the father of all Quincy's, Yhwach himself, coming in to try to secure another W for the Team Bleach. And this one's actually quite interesting. I saw a lot of people post this on the community post. And sure, I know there's a lot of like hardcore Bleach fans that don't think Yhwach could ever lose to anybody. It's inconceivable that he could lose to anyone, or that, you could even have this matchup in the first place. But all that I ask is that you take your fanboyism, you put it to the side for a second, and you just hear out the arguments made in this video, at least before you go down to the comments and drop your stupid comment, alright? Do keep in mind that my Discord is always open. I see a lot of salty people in the comments, yet none of them actually want to come fight me on the things that I say in these videos. So consider taking that next step and coming to fight me. Now, for everybody else, if you enjoy what I do, whether it be these versus videos or the Bleach power scaling content, if you drop a like and subscribe on the video, it really helps your boy out. You can also click that join button to gain access to hidden content here on the channel, such as past live streams and debates that I upload for members. But with that being said, you guys know how we do these. I mean, I've done like 4 of them at this point. We're going to go over the strength, speed, and abilities of both combatants, then talk about who would win when they enter the arena with one another. Now, I'm going to do something a bit different in this video. I'm actually not going to jump back and forth between, like, say, Adam and Yhwach. I'm actually just going to go over all of Adam on one side and then go over all of Yhwach on the other side. I found that I like doing that just a bit more than jumping back and forth. So aside from that small change, let's go ahead and dive right into this video, starting off with Adam. So Adam is one of the most, or if not the most, cracked character in Record of Ragnarok. Even if you haven't read the manga or watched the anime, you've probably seen versus battles with Adam, and he gets pitted up against like some really OP people. Like, I know that I've seen like Adam versus Gojo ideas, I've seen Adam versus Aizen, and that's all for a very good reason. For one, he's insanely strong. He's able to go toe-to-toe with Zeus super casually. And the reason this is so impressive is that Zeus not only just sat inside of the Big Bang, but in the anime they actually say that he created everything out of nothing, meaning the universe as we know it was created by Zeus. And yet this man Adam is able to just scrap with him even in his like most powerful forms. As it stands right now, this would be about a universal feat. This could go a bit higher depending on what Record of Ragnarok does with their cosmology. Seeing as they have like tons of different pantheons in their verse, they could make this a multiversal feat. But as it stands right now, we really only know of one universe in Record of Ragnarok, and it seems that all the pantheons do share that one universe. So it's more safe to say that Zeus would be universal because of this, but it's still rather impressive for Adam because, again, he's able to just annihilate Zeus for about 90% of their fight until his stamina goes out and then Zeus starts to take the upper hand in that battle. I mean, even then though, when Adam's abilities shut down, he's still slugging it out with Zeus, taking all of the hits until he's able to bait an attack from Zeus so he can literally just grab onto his head and just start beating on him from that position. But that's not the only reason Adam's crazy. He's also insane because of how fast Zeus is. Now, in the manga, they're like, oh, Zeus threw a lightning quick jab against Adam and Adam's able to dodge it. And that's like fine and all, but the anime extrapolated on this even more, actually saying that he was near light speed, which technically those statements don't go against one another. Because technically, if you're moving at like Mach 1000, you're closer to light speed than you're not, than like some normal person, I guess. But that's only at the beginning of their battle. That's when Zeus is moving at a 1/100th of a second, and then they start getting to like 1/1 millionth of a second, until Zeus finally pulls out the fist that surpasses time, where he's able to stop time and then throw this god time punch at his opponent, and Adam is still able to react to him in stopped time. But then the anime goes one step further and says it's a fist that surpasses the laws of time, which you could argue is like a high-end immeasurable speed feat. Because at that point, the fist would be surpassing all facets of time itself. One of the ways to get a character to being high-end immeasurable speed is just to have them surpass the concept of time itself. Surpassing the laws of time is generally on the same tier, as laws and concepts are very similar in where they scale when like versus debating, as concepts are these fundamental aspects of the universe, and then the laws are like fundamental aspects of the universe governing how things operate. They're held in pretty similar regard, so if you want to say because of that regard they're held in, And because Zeus has now surpassed all the laws of time, this would be a high-end immeasurable speed feat. That would be fine, but I really don't think it gets any higher than that. I've heard some arguments for irrelevant speed, but those are really jank. They're really not the best. You're definitely reaching and wanking the character at that point. Let's just stick with what we actually know and then he's surpassing the laws of time and go with immeasurable speed. But then what about Adam's abilities? Well, for one, being a character in Record of Ragnarok, he would have to be a soul, and it's said by Zeus that you have to erase the existence of your opponent in order to get a W in this tournament. So Adam exists as a soul, which gives him some astral properties, but as a member in the Record of Ragnarok tournament, he would have to be capable of erasing his target's existence to actually consider getting a W. But then there's the ability that he is most famous for, the Eyes of the Lord, or Divine Reflection as the anime calls it. Basically, this is a copy technique. Anything that Adam sees, he can then replicate. This could actually even extend to weapons, because even though Adam himself doesn't come with the weapon, he has a Valkyrie that can turn into whatever weapon he needs. They typically turn into a weapon that best suits the user, but say Adam copies Kojiro's sword technique, and then his Valkyrie could then turn into a katana so he could replicate what Kojiro is doing. So basically, if you do something in front of Adam, he's going to replicate that, and he apparently gets physically stronger when he does that, because he was copying everything that Zeus was doing. He was copying his speed, his techniques, all of that. In fact, that's actually how he got around Zeus's time-surpassing punch. He just copied it and made it his own. So this power is insanely good. Again, not only copying techniques, but allegedly also copying physical attributes as well. Obviously, there would be some limits to this. We wouldn't just say that Adam could copy like a 96-dimensional character's attack potency and say that Adam's 92-dimensional now. From what we've seen, he's been able to match a character that created the universe and was able to move at speeds that surpass the laws of time. So with that being said, let's move into our boy Yhwach and talk about what he's capable of. Now, Yhwach's reputation probably precedes him, right? I probably don't need to go in too much depth when we're talking about Yhwach. Quite literally, the god of the Bleach verse. You don't get any more OP than this guy. His entire plan was to destroy all of the Bleach realms, all of the main realms, all of the connecting realms, and thus create a new realm where there would be no death, no fear. Basically, he was going to create a utopia. This is extremely impressive because there are numerous Bleach realms that are infinite in size. Whether it be Hueco and its statements of having infinite amounts of sand, I know it's a bit of a goofy statement, but if you have an infinite amount of sand, you need an infinite amount of space to hold said sand. There's also Mukin, which is a connecting realm to the Soul Society, which is said to be infinite in terms of its size. This is even said in the actual kanji for those of you that might be doubting that. There's also the Valley of Screams, which are said to be infinite in size and have to contain an infinite amount of souls, as said by Ganryu. You could even use this to imply that the Soul Society and the World of the Living are actually infinite in terms of their size as well, because when they're drawn by the Valley of Screams, they're portrayed to be much larger. Because unfortunately, the Soul Society and the World of the Living are like the two realms that don't have anything saying that they're infinite in terms of their size. I know some people like to reference the stuff that Rukia says at the very beginning where they're like, it's the death of the universe if the Quincy's keep doing this. But that does not imply that it's an infinite universe. All they're saying is that the Bleach universe has a very delicate balance, and if the Quincy's disturb it, the universe will collapse. And if anything, that's not referring to the individual realms, it's referring to the entire Bleach multiverse as a whole. But with the Valley of Screams, you could even imply that those realms are also infinite in terms of their size. There's things like the Garganta and the Dangai as well. Which, interesting fact, the Dangai might actually be its own time space, which if there are separate time spaces within the Bleach multiverse, and Yhwach's going to destroy some of these other universes, it might actually bump him from just being infinite 3D for destroying infinite spaces to being a fourth dimensional being, because not only would he be destroying a separate time space, he would be recreating said time space and also destroying the universal construct that holds said time spaces together. If you want to go even higher, you could use the higher dimensional arguments from when Aizen is fighting Dangai Ichigo. Basically, Aizen says that he's like a fourth dimensional being compared to Shinigami and normal people that are like 3D, but Ichigo's on like a higher dimension compared to him. And then Aizen then gets angry as he's trying to rationalize what's happening before him because he doesn't want to accept that that's the case, which actually makes this more valid. In which case, like, Mugetsu Ichigo would be 5D, obviously Ichigo regains all of his powers in True Shikai, and Yhwach's able to box that Ichigo pretty casually. I mean, he flattened him in like 2.5 seconds. So really, anywhere from like infinite 3D to like 5D is somewhat valid for Yhwach, especially when we're using like Soul King Yhwach. Speed is the only bit that's a bit iffy when it comes to Bleach, because they have like FTL feats, MFTL feats for days. They have all of that stuff. Whether you want to use like Shunsui versus Stark, which is like 75 times the speed of light to 800 times the speed of light, depending on if you use the highball. Then there's like the Mime Hage and the Ash Swollen, which are like quite literally millions of times the speed of light. And then you can argue that you could stack multipliers on top of that because of characters like Ichigo and get to like hundreds of millions of times the speed of light. But then when it comes to using like higher infinity levels of speed, Bleach really doesn't have a whole lot. There's a few things here and there that you might be able to use, but at the end of the day, they're all a little dodgy. For instance, there's the Lille Baro feat where he says there's no concept of dodging when using the X-axis because it just hits his opponent. That you could argue would be like irrelevant speed, because when you dodge, you would use time and space. If you're going to calculate somebody dodging, both of those are important. So I've seen some arguments where people try to argue that that's irrelevant speed, but then there's also counter arguments where it's like, well, maybe that's just like an anti-dodging ability. Or people even discredit Lille's statement of saying there is no concept of dodging, and because Shunsui dodges it, they actually discredit his statement. So that's really just how you want to argue that yourself. You're going to have to like leave that up to the comments down below. You guys can argue amongst yourselves about that. There's also the idea that like Yhwach's spiritual pressure is able to influence all of these different realms, and he's able to do it rather quick. So if he's able to like shake things like Mukin, or like his spiritual pressure is able to travel from the Soul Society into Hueco Mundo, across the Dangai through the Garganta and everything, then there would be some infinite-sized realms in his path. So logically, he would need to have like infinite speed, quote-unquote, for his Ryatsu to be able to reach across those and destroy them that quickly. There's also an argument for the Dangai because there's like quote-unquote no time in the Dangai. The only thing that's really odd about that is that if there was no time, Ichigo and Isshin would literally be right on top of Aizen and Gin if there was no time as soon as they left. Although that's using reasoning, and for all we know, Aizen's a being beyond reason, apparently. So maybe it's true, the Dangai has no time, these characters have inaccessible speed because they can just run through an area that has no time. I will leave that up to you guys in the comments to argue amongst yourselves where you want the Bleach speed meta to be. Because Lord knows we do not have enough time to do like a 1.5 hour video talking about the different Bleach speed metas. But moving on to Yhwach's abilities, I actually really like this matchup for this reason in particular. Both of their main abilities come from their eyes. Adam has the eyes of the Lord, and Yhwach has the eyes of the Almighty, which basically allows him to see into a nigh infinite amount of timelines. He likens the amount of timelines that he's able to see with the Almighty to the amount of grains of sand that are on a beach, which is not infinite, but that's like millions upon millions of timelines. For most practical uses, it might as well be infinite for whoever you're fighting. But he's not only able to see those timelines, but he's able to hop between those timelines even after he's already dead. Like, Ichigo actually kills him in their final battle, and then Yhwach says, yeah, I did the switch after I died. Like, I already had this set up. Which, again, pretty crazy that this dude can just revive mid-battle and be like, yep, I'm fine, let's keep going. Then, on top of that, he has all the crazy Quincy abilities, like, say, Sanct Altar, which allows him to steal abilities. He can overtake his opponent's body with his Blute. Quincy arrows themselves have existence erasure, as Mayuri says. You know, who else could erase the very existence of Hollows other than the Quincy's, and they do this via their arrows? Obviously, Yhwach himself has some astral properties, because, I mean, he's in the series Bleach. They're fighting ghosts all day, every day. Everybody's basically a ghost. There's also the idea that you can't touch Yhwach. If you remember the baby story, if you touch Yhwach, he bestows powers to you, and then he takes those back at your own peril. You'll get a little stronger in some way in the moment, but then you'll eventually just die. So even if he doesn't just take over your body, he might just run away for like an hour and wait for you to die when he recalls his powers. There's also the idea that he can use the other Sternritter abilities. Now, this one I'm a bit back and forth on, because usually people use the scan where the superstar dies. And Yhwach says, let your powers return to me. Now, this either means he's reclaiming the, like, actual Sternritter ability, or he's just doing the baby thing where he reclaims, like, the soul power he gave to them. We do know that Yhwach bestows the scripts and thus the power to each of these Sternritters, but it's not clear if it's actually set. For instance, is the B, is that always the balance? And the reason I say that is because you have the A. The A is the almighty and the antithesis. So my little game theory, quote unquote, if you want to call it that, is that when Yhwach bestows a script to somebody, it gives them an ability that actually matches who they are, right? For instance, Uryu is like the perfect counter to Yhwach, so he got the antithesis, right? That was the ability he got. That being said, if Yhwach can like bestow these powers that he potentially already has, that makes him even crazier, because it might just mean that he can make up abilities on the fly, which that's okay. We're getting into the theory zone, right? We're in the headcanon area. Don't go into like a versus forum and say, well, Bleach Hub said he could make up powers. Look, we're in the theory zone. We're talking about how crazy Yhwach is. We're not in actual like super concrete mode, right? We're using what we have in the series to kind of speculate on some of his abilities. But anyway, that's just how crazy this guy is, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how nutty he is. So with that being said, who wins between Adam and Yhwach? Now, this battle's not as cut and dry as you might think. I know we kind of just wanked off Yhwach for like 9 minutes there, but this is probably going to be a very odd battle if this were to happen, because Yhwach, I believe, has the overwhelming strength advantage. I mean, he's either infinite 3D or potentially in higher dimensions, right? Which is way better than Adam just scaling to a guy that created the universe that we don't even know if it's infinite or not. So Adam and Zeus are more in this like universal tier, but not in the universal higher tier, right? Where it's infinite 3D, which is like Yhwach's baseline. So for all respects, Yhwach has more than infinite strength than Adam. If he touches him, Adam dies. The issue is that Adam has a way better speed feat than Yhwach. Now, if you want to downplay Adam and say that they're only moving through stopped time, and you completely disregard the idea that they're surpassing time, then yeah, Yhwach should be about the same speed. If you just want to use someone like the infinite speed arguments and then boom, Yhwach wins, he just like taps Adam and kills him. But if you're not discrediting the feats of Zeus surpassing time, then we have this idea that Adam's going to be zipping around, not being able to do anything to Yhwach. And if he has immeasurable speed, Adam quite literally has all the time he could ever want to fight Yhwach. The problem is, he wouldn't really be able to do anything to Yhwach, and his ability would actually be worse because of this, because Adam's ability is really good when he's reacting to things. He sees somebody do something, and he reacts to them and gains their ability. But if he's faster than Yhwach, so much so that Yhwach would literally just be standing there frozen because of how fast Adam is, he actually has nothing to copy, and will more than likely just burn himself out and just die himself before Yhwach even has to do anything. So I get that that's a little goofy, but what about if they had like equal stats? You know, let me bring it into this a bit more fair. Well, even then, I really think it's pretty obvious that Yhwach's gonna take this dub, because at the end of the day, if Adam keeps using Yhwach's abilities, he might just keep recalling them back to himself. So let's say, for instance, Yhwach uses like Basby's burner finger or something, and he shoots some fire at Adam. He uses Eyes of the Lord to copy it, but then Yhwach's like, that's my power, I recall that. Because remember, the abilities would still be based on the abilities that Yhwach gives out to people, or at the very least, if you don't buy into that idea, if Adam goes to touch Yhwach once, he's lost the fight, and unfortunately for Adam, that's his primary method of combat. He literally grabs the knuckle duster and says, yeah, I prefer to let my fist do the talking. So as soon as he touches Yhwach, he's either getting his body invaded by him, or Yhwach just bestows a bit of his soul onto him and then just recalls it and kills Adam. So while I like the idea of this fight as having like the father of man who also has like this Eyes of God ability versus the father of the Quincy who also has this like Eyes of God ability fighting one another, It's really just a horrendous stomp in Yhwach's favor. He has way too much going on for him, and Yhwach really doesn't have any dud abilities. Everything that he has is really strong. Even the basic Quincy arrows are insanely powerful because they erase the target's existence. So it looks like Bleach is back on top with their third W. But it's not all doom and gloom. In the next matchup, we'll be having Kojiro enter the ring, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on who you think should fight Kojiro. I've seen a lot of recommendations for Shunsui because they're very mellow, relaxed characters. That does sound like it's pretty cool. I might go with that, but if you have other suggestions, leave them down in the comments down below. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments down below what you guys think of the matchup. Now, all the people we talked about at the beginning, the people that are the Ultra Bleach fanboys that have Yhwach being high 1A, you guys can all now comment down below on why you don't like the matchup. If there was anything said that you did not like, remember, my Discord is linked down in the description down below. I try to be fairly active over there, so you know, if you come in there, you ping me and you're like, hey buddy, let's get into VC, I want to talk about this. Whether you want to debate or just have a discussion, make sure you let me know, because I'm going to come at you with a different energy depending on what you want to do. And if you're disrespectful to me, you can expect some disrespect back. I know that's been an issue in the past. People are like, wow, Bleach was just really rude. And I'm like, bro, if you're coming into my server throwing around disrespect, why would I show you any amount of respect? So you come correct and, you know, I'll show the same amount of respect to you. But you start getting antsy, bro, the gloves are off. That's all I'm going to say. But with that being said, other links are down in the description as well. You know, second channel, Twitter, Twitch, all that good stuff. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.